Welcome to the Create More Intimacy podcast. I'm Elisa Stoddard. This is a podcast for men who want to bring closeness, connection, and yes, intimacy back into their marriage. Let's get started. You want things to change, but you're not doing anything different. You're trying, you're showing up, you're doing what you think will help. But if we're being honest, if we're slowing down and actually looking at the results, it's not working. And that's not because you're lazy. It's because what you've been trying, it's the same thing you've always done. In today's episode, we're going to walk through why your effort isn't the same as change, what trying something new actually means and what it doesn't mean, and how to stop recycling the same approach and start getting different results. Let me say this clearly. Wanting change is not enough, and trying harder at the same things that don't work is not progress. You might be hoping she'll come around. You might be biting your tongue to keep the peace. You might be pulling back because you're tired of being the only one trying. But all of that, it's the same pattern, just with a different name. And if your relationship still feels tense, distant, or cold, it's because those patterns don't work. Here's the powerful truth. I saw something the other day that I just can't stop thinking about, and it was a diagram by Adam Grant, and it said, do you want to improve? Yes? Then try something new. No? Then keep doing the same thing. So simple, so obvious, and so gutting. Because the truth is, trying something new feels scary. It requires humility and vulnerability and being wrong, maybe. Sometimes it requires asking for help, but it's the only way to create something better. When I work with men, they often come to me saying, well, I'm trying, but she just doesn't see it. Or she doesn't believe it will last. Or I just want peace in the house. Or I don't even know what would make her happy anymore. And what I help them see is this. They're doing the same thing over and over, hoping that it will finally work this time. She's tired of the same things you do over and over. She wants real change. They stay silent to avoid the conflict, or they get loud out of frustration. I hear things like, well, I planned a trip, I bought a gift, I sent a text, but it still doesn't land. I want you to know it's not because you're doing something wrong, but it's because you're not doing something new. Let me be clear about something. Trying something new doesn't mean doubling down on the same old habits. It doesn't mean pushing harder or pretending that everything's okay even. It means slowing down. It means getting honest and being willing to see the problem differently. Sometimes it means learning how to say the hard thing, but without blame. Sometimes it means letting go of a story that you've been holding on to for years. You feel so justified, and yet it is so painful. Sometimes it means doing less, but doing it with presence and intention. I want to tell you about my own wake-up call. There was a time in my own marriage when disagreements felt like walking into a storm. I wanted to talk things through. I wanted him to hear me and understand where I was coming from. And truthfully, I'll be honest, I wanted him to agree with me and change. But when he was upset, he would go silent, and sometimes for days. He'd shut down and retreat, and it was so tense in our house. It felt horrible. The house got quiet, the kids could feel it, and underneath it all, I was scared. I was scared that he'd leave. I was scared that I'd be left with nothing. I had no income of my own. I had all of these kids and a life that I felt like could unravel overnight. So, what do? You keep the peace. I softened, I overfunctioned, I stayed small, hoping that it would bring us back to okay-ish. But it never did, because I was still playing the same role in the same pattern. What finally changed things for me wasn't getting him to change, although that did happen. It was learning how to stand up for myself in a different way. When I built confidence of my own, when I stopped trying to control his reaction and started using my own voice with clarity and calm, when I stopped buying into the story that my marriage was supposed to look a certain way for everybody else in the neighborhood to see what a good job and what a nice family and what good kids we had, yeah, that's when things started to shift. Not because he did, but because I shifted. And when I did, our marriage had the chance to grow too. If you're ready for something to shift, here are a few questions to sit with. What have you been doing over and over, hoping for a different result? What am I afraid would happen if I tried something new? What story am I still clinging to that keeps me stuck? What would feel uncomfortable but honest to try instead? Trying something new is hard. It's hard to do alone, especially when sometimes you can't even see why what you're doing isn't working, and when you've been carrying that same pain or fear or frustration around for years. Honestly, that's where I can help. That's where coaching comes in, and it's not just another thing to try, it's a completely different approach. It's the space where you can be brutally honest without judgment. You can start to see your blind spots, not because you see them on your own, but because when they're pointed out in a different way, it finally clicks. You can learn how to lead with emotional maturity, not control, and those are very different things. Honestly, you don't need more pressure. You need something that actually helps and feels hopeful again. If you've been doing the same things and nothing has changed, it's not because you're not trying. I absolutely see that. But it's because it's time to try something better. Thanks for being here. If something in this episode hit home, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps more men find the support they need. And if you are ready to get help or take the next step, you'll find the link to book a free call in the show notes. I'll see you next time.